Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your Washington Commanders update, and I am your host, Candi CWall, checking in as I do each and every single week during the NFL season to give you the latest and greatest of information on the Washington Commanders. I know we normally start right at 7:30, but I had a lot to get done at the last minute. So I said, let me try to work this out so that we can get this going. I see you all getting ready to pop on in. So hello to you all for this live Bowie television recording. If you are on from the YouTube channel, make sure you're subscribed, hit that thumbs up, and tell all of your family and friends overall about Bowie TV. You all, from a television perspective, yes, we are a television channel, Verizon Channel 11 and Comcast Xfinity Channel 77. And if you're streaming through my Facebook, hello, make sure you hit that love button and share this show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends. We're definitely going to get into a lot, because as always, I love to break everything down, share my insights from being on site with the team and just all of the things. You absolutely, if you have been here before, then you already know you got to say hello to Mama Waller and Pops Waller. You got to say hello to everybody. So make sure you say hello to them. Make sure you are locked in. You always want to ensure you're sharing this show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends. I feel like I've been on the Tizzle a lot here recently, which is all good. But this is the Bowie TV version of the Washington Commanders Update Live. I like to do the show live, especially during the season, because it's just I like the engagement. That's why I do it live. And as James Roundtree says, happy holidays, everybody. At the end of the game yesterday, I just said, Commanders fans, Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you. So, and rightfully so, right? So you all listen, there is absolutely a lot that I must share because I really want to take you all through the entire week. In terms of just what were all the things that transpired as the week went on. You all know I'm on site for practice and press conferences leading up to the game. Didn't really know what to think, what to feel going into this rematch of the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. We knew it was going to be a big one. We knew this was always going to be a big one. I don't know about for you all, but this was certainly a game that I had circled on my calendar because it's a division game. And so everyone always knows, hey, if you win the division, you automatically get into the playoffs. But after that Thursday night football game, it was like, wow, this is one to circle because this one is going to be intense. I had no idea it was going to be as intense as it was, but hey, I think we were all thoroughly entertained. So with that being said, go ahead and drop in the chat, what is your one word? What's your one word to describe how you are feeling and how you were feeling about the team's win yesterday? Drop in the chat how you felt about it. Definitely want to know all of your thoughts. I can tell you all, and I see some of the comments coming through with wow, amazing, amazed. Drop all of those comments in the chat of what your one word was. I talked about when was it? I think it was the Hail Mary game. Of course, why would I not know when this was? It was the Hail Mary game, and I shared with you all in a very authentic way because that's what I bring, some authenticity to this. The reactions in the press box, including my own. And, there is no cheering in the press box. And so this time it wasn't as much cheering. Was there some cheering? Yes. But for myself, I did not cheer because I wanted to make sure I didn't get dinged with that because, kind of let that one fly in the Hail Mary game against the Chicago Bears. I held it together, but I think holding it together made me hot. As cold as it was yesterday, but it wasn't cold in the press box. I'd gotten unseasonably warm all of a sudden. I had to fan myself, just like I'm doing right now. I was like, oh my gosh. And Felix Trammell and David Harrison sit next to me in the press box. At least, this week we were all sitting together, and they were like, "You're not gonna pass out, are you?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. I don't think." But goodness gracious, wow. Okay, had to fan that one off. Like, okay, woo. All right. So, with that being said, I really want to just go into last week. Love button, fire emoji if you keep up with the press conferences, because I'm going to get into, I'm going to take you through a journey on this one. I want to start with last week with the press conferences, and then I want to get into the game because there were a lot of highlights. I want to get into the game. I have some questions for you all that I want to make sure you all have an opportunity to share your thoughts and what you've been thinking, but we're going to share some really good highlights. I'm kind of excited about it, actually, from yesterday's game. But let's get into some things first. Last week, you all know, it was Jayden Daniels' birthday. And so I had a question for him. Jayden has just been getting so much recognition, rightfully so. And so based on the questions that I had been receiving and just knowing, it was like, this is a big game. Every game is a big game. But in terms of just solidifying who he is to the franchise, what he could possibly mean for the future of the quarterback position, the NFL overall, and just offensive rookie of the year, I just wanted to know how he was handling and just all of the accolades and recognition. So I asked him about this in last week's press conference. Check it out. Jayden, how are you maintaining your overall focus for the game? I think I asked you this early on in the season when you were getting all the rookie honors, but now it's just intensified each week. So how are you just keeping focused, and how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Can't complain. Blessed to see another year. That's the main thing. But I mean, it's just keeping the main thing, and being where my feet are. That's what my parents always told me growing up, is just be where your feet are. Don't worry about in the future what happened in the past. All that matters in the moment.
So then I had to follow up with that to ask Coach Quinn his thoughts on what he has observed from quarterback Jayden Daniels in his rookie season, now that he's getting all of this recognition. Check out his response. And on Wednesday, I asked Jayden about how he's able to maintain his focus with just all of the accolades and everything that he's getting in his rookie season. So what have you seen and just your observations overall and how he's maintaining that focus?
For sure, before coming here, Candi, I thought one of the things that I really admired about him, maybe after he was here, not before in the pre-draft process, but I would say as we got into the season, I thought he had the right blend of confidence and humility. And I haven't seen that change one bit. And so I can remember last week we were having dinner, and I was asking about like the Heisman voting process. And it was, something I'd never asked a Heisman winner before. And of course, Marcus is at the same table. And so I asked the conversation for both of them, like, what does that look like? And so the fact that both of them, their humility, not advertising things, such as that, I think kind of in a very small way, Candi, speaks to their humility and their confidence, because they're able to handle a lot and not, look for the pat on the back. And I love the way they're early, they're intentional about their work, and they've got some pretty cool leaders around them that have shown that example. This team is close. It's remarkable, like their connection they've had, and so they're hard on each other in a good way. They have fun, make fun of one another. The Wagners and Jayden Daniels sit right next to one another in a team meeting, and if one picture's up, they'll be elbowing. It's just there's a connection that the team has made, and I think that allows them, they know he's done well. And so no one inside the building's telling him extra. So they give him a hard time just like anybody else, and I think that's important. But confidence and humility, I noticed that pretty early on, a good blend of both. And I think to be a special player, you need those because he doesn't ride a roller coaster of emotions that take place. You're welcome.
So if you're just tuning in, this is a live Bowie television recording of the Washington Commanders Update Live. I am your host, hostess with hopefully the mostest for you all, Candi CWall Waller, sharing my insights of being with the team on site and covering the team and what I'm capturing and noticing and observing and sharing that. And absolutely, we're going to get into this big Washington Commanders win against the Philadelphia Eagles. Just sharing some of the clips from last week. Knew this was going to be a big week for Jayden Daniels. It seems like it's always a big week for Jayden Daniels. It almost seems like more of a big week for Jayden than the team overall. Everyone knows that the team is going through an overhaul, so to speak, or a recalibration, as Coach Quinn has called it in the past. But we've also heard them say they want to win now. We also know that this league, it's a very small margin of error. Okay, so owners and fans alike are not very apologetic about, oh, it's just 1 year, or oh, it's injuries, or oh, it's this, or oh, it's that. You're still expected to see very tangible results. And those tangible results are oftentimes the W column. That's it. And that's all. So the Commanders have now amassed 10 wins on the season. If you're just tuning in, and if you're new to this, in terms of joining Bowie TV and myself for the Washington Commanders Update, you all may or may not know that I thought the team would win 7 games at the most. They are now at 10. One of the happiest times I have been to be wrong. So one thing I've been sharing is that now you're in the bonus round. This is the bonus section. So that means just watching the game objectively, seeing and just sensing and just paying attention to all the things, in riding the wave, which I think is a very, very, very good thing. I want to acknowledge this comment here from Mazdak. Exceeding expectations has been my favorite part of this year. That was one of the things that I've always encouraged. Temper your expectations, because if they meet them, it's cool. If they exceed them, this is going to be a lot of fun. Okay. And I know there was always, it's always a lot, right? And I think one of the things, before I get into just the game itself, here's a hard truth. And I've had to realize this from, national media, local media, myself included in that. Okay. And then what I'm about to say, the fan base, the hard truth is this has been a bad franchise. This has been known as a bad franchise. So anything good, you're just waiting for the bottom to fall out or be like, that's just not possible. And I think it's hard to just combat 30 years of debacle. It really is. But I just encourage the live in the moment, just watch, just keep watching and see what happens, because there was certainly a ton of meltdowns going on on social media during the game when things are starting to get a little crazy. I do want to go back to this question that I asked Dan Quinn on Friday, because I wanted to see if he was going to tell me exactly which, and he alluded to it a little bit, which matchups he was looking forward to watching on this game. So while I'm sharing this clip, I certainly would love you to drop in the chat, going into the game, which matchups were you looking forward to? Because I can already give you a hint and a spoiler alert for me, which was, and you could go ahead and use your clues on Dan Quinn's answer. But I've been telling everybody Marshon Lattimore's first game with the Washington Commanders wasn't really the New Orleans Saints. It was going to be this week. And that matchup did not disappoint. It may have frustrated, but it had some good bump, some intense bump for certain. But let me share this clip, and then we're going to get into all of the game highlights.
Hey, Coach. So when you're preparing for a game, whether it be this one coming up or one of the games that you all have already done, do you ever look at certain matchups and kind of even for yourself say, oh, that's going to be a good one?
Yes.
Short answer.
Lots of times. And it's kind of makes what's fun. And players do too, to say, boy, that's a good one. You know, whether you're talking about, you know, Mikey and Lattimore and their receivers, you know, the ability to tackle on Barkley, you know, the matchups with Terry in different spaces. So, yeah, I think about that a lot. And I also do it on special teams because these, Candi, can then be some big plays, you know, that go. And so, you know us, we like to cover and return and all the stuff that goes with that. So they have, you know, some really talented special teams guys too. So there's lots of matchups that go into it that I like a lot. And, yeah, I definitely prod that some weeks more than others. That's the art for the players to study. This is the person I'm going against. The coaches, they can handle the scheme and look for this coverage, watch for this pass route based on a formation. But the player study, man, I'm gonna know that stance. I'm gonna know that alignment. I'm gonna know where he puts his hands. That's, to me, is like how do you really prepare? It's the coaching and the player study merging, and the best of the best, they get themselves ready for that player that they have to see.
So with that being said, let's get into some of these highlights, because don't you want to relive some of these highlights? So I'm going to share some of the highlights from the game right now with you all that I think is just so important, and drop in the chat if you really enjoyed some of these moments, which I'm sure you all did. Listen, check this out. I think some of this, just some of the overall post-game notes, it's kind of like if we going back to Dan Quinn, right? Head coach Dan Quinn has become the only head coach in franchise history to win 10 plus games in his first year with the organization. GM Adam Peters joins Charlie Casserly as the only GMs in franchise history to win 10 plus games in their first seasons as GM. Let's see what else. I got a few others. I mean, just the overall energy, because we talk a lot about the players, and we have, and rightfully so, but there is still much to be shared about what they are bringing. They, meaning Dan Quinn and Adam Peters, are bringing to this organization in year one. I know that was something that I knew that I was going to be watching very closely. You all have heard me talk about organizational culture. You all have heard me talk about how this seems to be connecting so quickly, and you've heard Dan Quinn affirm that as well. So it is truly something that I don't know if we all even realize the greatness that we're all watching. So it means a lot. And I love this comment here by Cortland, which is they set themselves up with a great draft and having the players that fit the system. And this comment here as well, Peters has been around rebuilds and put a plan together and executed it almost perfectly. You have to be paying attention to, they set a goal, they set a culture. They said, this is who we want to be when we grow up. This is what we want this to look like. And they have absolutely been basically just matching players to that, based on the players that they brought in and the players that they have decided to keep, because we know that there's still going to be some movement going on. I think what everyone is watching are true professionals, individuals that are bringing their skill sets to bear to then, and of course, even in constructing of not just the roster, but as well as the coaching staff. That is another conversation that I've been big on since they all got here. If you go back through the Bowie TV YouTube channel, you all will see many of the one-on-one conversations that I had with several members of this coaching staff. We had 2 rounds of just coaches roundtables, getting an opportunity to know each one of the coaches. And that stuff matters to really understand how that is even built and how that's crafted to then put together what you see on Sundays. So, love button, fire emoji. If you really, 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 really like what you've seen so far with what Adam Peters and Dan Quinn have pulled together, I'm going to be saying, hey, I'm going to always take it back to the leadership. And let's take it back to the ownership as well. Let's take it back to Josh Harris and company. They have a standard. They spend a whole lot of money on this. And it's paying dividends so far. Okay? It's absolutely paying dividends so far. So everyone should be totally into what they are watching. Shouldn't be too many complaints, you all. I still see a bit too much complaining. Now, it's fair to complain and be objective when you just know that what you're seeing can be better because you know you've watched them be better. Understand that. But still, the team won 4 games last year. And we went into a whole thing, right? Team winning, 10 games won for the first time since 2012. And there's still 2 more games to go. Okay? Still 2 more games to go. I'm reading a bit more here to make sure I'm just capturing all of the things where it's like you haven't had anything to really, really cheer about in at least a decade. And then some, at least. And then the big records and franchise makings, some of that has not transpired since the 90s. So everybody can go ahead and enjoy the ride, enjoy the wave, watch how they respond to adversity, watch how they course correct. It's been something. It's been something. And I'm going to get into some very important points here, the more important points. I feel like I'm already making some important points, but I have more where that comes from because I have to get into some questions. Now, this question for you all is probably a bit petty. It's rooted in a bit of petty Candi Waller-ness, okay? Because don't be too shocked. I can get petty, all right? I can get real petty, but I feel like it's a real question. Has the Washington Commanders ever beat the Philadelphia Eagles and eliminated the Dallas Cowboys from the playoffs on the same day? I feel like everybody needs to break out, I feel like someone needs to figure this out for me. I mean, I don't know. Have they? Has this ever happened on the same day? I feel like it's the on the same day part that is the real deal question. Like, wait, everybody, has this happened before on the same day? I mean, Commanders fans. Love button if you're watching on Facebook. Fire emoji if you're watching on YouTube, okay? You got to admit, it had to have been a little bit sweeter for you all. Knowing that beating the Philadelphia Eagles, which just about no one thought was possible. Seriously, because let's give credit where credit is due. The Philadelphia Eagles are absolutely hottest team in the league. And we're going to get into some of that in a minute, okay? But I just beating the Eagles, then eliminating the Dallas Cowboys, I think is paramount. Gotta be more than a win for you all. And I want to acknowledge this comment because this is something that a previous comment that Cortland shared, that I shared on the screen earlier, and now I see a comment coming through saying the same thing, is that Adam Peters has done this. You all remember Bowie TV, we were all in on the GM and the head coach finding out what's going on, okay? And I said it, love button, fire emoji. If you were with me at the top of the year and you knew I was just, it's got to be Adam Peters. It has to be Adam Peters for the amount of money that this organization, that these owners have spent on this organization. If it, for that money, for $6 billion, and for, if you spend $6 billion, you need a quick return on your investment. Therefore, you have to go get Adam Peters. You have to get somebody that is smart, that has done this before, who can now take the lessons learned from that and really craft a blueprint that's going to result in immediate results. It doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, but you absolutely need immediate results in the positive. It must be Adam Peters. I would also like to say, and while I know that the San Francisco 49ers have dealt with some tough injuries, they sure haven't had the year. Even with the injuries, they have not had the years they've had in the past. And if you all know Lou Holder, shout out to Lou Holder and go ahead and tag him in and let him know that I'm talking about him, because Lou brought that up to us in the press conference room. Hey, you notice the San Francisco 49ers just haven't been the same this year without Adam Peters. And I said, what? There it is. That right there. Because when the brains leave the building, let me go ahead and move on before I say something somebody might check me on later. I don't get no problems. It's Christmas time. Let me move on. Favorite Washington Commanders in the team's win against the Eagles. Favorite Washington Commanders in the team's win against the Eagles. Who were your favorite players? Who were your favorite players? Drop them in the chat. You got to have a couple of favorites, right? Drop them in the chat. Your favorite players from the game. Let's hear them. I want to see them. Drop them in the chat. I'm pretty sure one of your favorite players is the clip I'm about to play. And that is my question to wide receiver Terry McLaurin. Love button and fire emoji for Terry McLaurin. Check out this question I had for Terry after yesterday's game. Hey, Terry. So after the game just now, I saw Bobby Wagner waiting for you to come off the field.
Yeah.
You all just really embrace one another.
Yeah.
So what is the tone that the two of you as game day captains along with Jeremy Reeves, what was the tone you all set for this week?
Man, I see why that guy is a Hall of Famer, honestly. And I haven't said it much to him, but he pushes me. I strive to be the kind of leader that he is and the type of person that he is on and off the field, in the community, life after football, the way he's in business, the way he handles his business on the field, the way he's helped Jayden and all the young guys, the defense. So in a moment like that, it's just two competitors looking each other in the eye, and it's like, we did it, but there's still so much more to be done. And for us to be captains along with Revo, we try to be a big part of our team, not just on the field but off the field, and setting the standard and keeping the standard and holding ourselves accountable and everybody else. And that starts with Bobby. So, I'm continue to still grow as a leader, and I have a great example in him. I look up to the way that he carries himself on and off the field, like I said, and just a competitor to be able to still play at a high level this deep in his career. I hope I could be a person like that as well. So that's kind of what all that is. It's just two guys that really respect each other, two guys that just put it all on the line on their team, and two unselfish guys that just want to win. And to have him here, I've learned a lot from him, and he's definitely helped us in a lot of ways.
So everybody you all named, because I'm there all the time, you all. And I remember at the top of the season where a lot of people was talking about Bobby Wagner. And let me tell you something. On and off the field, that player, that man, that human is absolutely the epitome of leadership. It is amazing the impact and effect he has on this team. And I've asked this question repeatedly, like throughout the season, to different players in training camp. I think I may have even asked Bobby when he first got here. And he's having an extraordinary year. The numbers do not lie. In this season, he at his position and he is having a fantastic, phenomenal year. But in terms of the how to deal with adversity and how to deal with adversity maturely, as mature as you can. Because let me tell you something. The Philadelphia Eagles was a nasty bunch yesterday. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. You can tell them I said it. It's okay, right? Because it's the truth. They are vicious when they play. The physicality part of it, the aggression part of it. It was in the verbal trash talking part of it. Now, am I gonna get put out of a game in an effort to just get under your skin? No, I'm not gonna get put out of a game. And that's how you knew, though. Yeah, physicality. They out here, but they had a tough group, right? Because there was a moment, and once I watched the TV version, I saw it. I said, oh, I don't think the at-home audience saw what got CJ kicked out of this game, because we already knew the personal foul, right? The issue with he and Diami, and if Diami is as cool as a cucumber, but if he got to put his hands on you, then that's bad. Okay, and I will give you a short answer to this question. Candi, do you know what he said? Yes, I do. That's my answer. So if someone reacts in that way and the ref has no issue with throwing a flag when you didn't, because some things are out of line, flat out. Okay. Now you get another penalty, a personal foul that gets you tossed. Now, what is evident is where you might be winning the physical game. You're not winning the mental one. And if we're all using our clues, I'm going to go ahead and throw a use your clues out here. Let me throw a use your clues out here. Okay? Let me throw this use your clues out here. We saw another player not use his maturity in the moment, and that team lost the football game. And that was when the Commanders played the Bears. Another kind of chippy player, didn't get any fouls or anything, and Stevenson was a lot of chippiness going on. But he let his lack of maturity get in the way, right? And his team ultimately lost. Same thing happened with CJ, with CJ Gardner-Jones. The same exact thing happened. You let that get in the way. You had to be low of the low, right? Get yourself kicked out of the game. And now your team lost. The team clearly needed you. But you thought words were more important. You thought actions were more important. During that television timeout, you all were watching TV, and I think I might have posted and I told people, somebody you don't ever want to upset, don't upset Terry McLaurin. You already done made Diami mad. He's as cool as a cucumber. He's not gonna hurt a fly. But apparently he would. Okay. Anytime Terry got to take his helmet off and act like he getting ready to square up, hey, he's got to go. Yeah, we're not doing this. Not at Northwest, not over here in Landover. No, not going to do this. So use your clues on that one. That means that there's somebody in there that understands physicality, absolutely, but mental strength, staying focused, going to get you what you need. You know, now I'm going to go back to this point. They better be glad the nice guys on offense was on the field because the goons on defense well, I'll be saying something a little different. I'll be like, well, hey, that's bad. So, so sorry all of that had to happen and all of that had to transpire. Dang. So, but people try to get over on who they can. Let's move back to the clips from after the game. Let's move into Dan Quinn's presser and some of the clips from there. Check it out.
Thoughts on the Marshon Lattimore, A.J. Brown matchup and how is Lattimore left the game?
Yeah, I don't have an update from an injury standpoint. Both he and Jordan McGee and Andrew Wiley all were injured in the game, so I don't have an update there. I love his competitive nature, honestly, down the field. It'd be good to see what the NFL says about one of the ones that they called a PI. Let's find out. But he's the type of person you want to put on that player. And it was somebody asked me this week, it might have been you, Candi, about matchups and where you're seeing. And that didn't disappoint, in terms of two exceptional players. And that's what makes the NFL really fun, and division games and battle. And it was high intensity, high tension. I thought our guys did a good job keeping our poise in the midst of some of the fire. And that's a big deal, too.
Keeping our poise in the midst of some of the fire. That includes the chippiness. It was bad. And I mentioned this during Thursday Night Football. I was like, I know they kind of, hey, but is everybody all right? Because it was way more intense. And yesterday was just bad. And then it was bad, rooted in the Philadelphia Eagles being that mean and vicious. So for them to then turn around and lose was interesting. Very, very interesting. And to that point, question for you all again: how surprised are you that the Washington Commanders beat the Philadelphia Eagles? I really want to know. Are you surprised? And it's okay. And it's all right. I don't see anything wrong with a bit of surprise. But I would say, and I want to acknowledge this. I would celebrate if Hurts was playing, but they were kicking our butts before he got injured. I want to address that because I don't think that I definitely. Hey, listen, their offense still scored 33 points. Right. They still scored 33 points. And the problem, and what I've been sharing on shows that I've been on, is if that would mean that Jalen Hurts would have had to score more than 36 points, right? In the end, he would have had to score more than 36 points, which is a problem. It had nothing to do, in my opinion. Sure, those are factors, right? The injuries they experienced, the, Jalen Hurts going out. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. But for the number one defense in the league that forced 5 turnovers, there's absolutely no excuse for you to force 5 turnovers on a team and then turn around and let them score 36 points. And that's what I can't figure out why no one is addressing. Why is nobody addressing this number one defense full of dynamic players? I mean, they are good. That defense is smoking all of the time. Okay? Force 5 turnovers and you still let that team score 36 on you and you lose? No. even if Jalen Hurts is playing, like I said, that means he has to score at least 36 points in order to beat you. And if that's the case, I'm having a meeting immediately as soon as we land back in Philadelphia with my defensive coordinator, because that is a problem. You got the number one defense. It's a struggling offense over there. Under no circumstances should that unit force 5 turnovers and then the offense beat you. It's crazy. Like, I can't. And I'm like, there's a lot of focus on Jalen Hurts being out. And it is a factor. Absolutely certain. It is a factor. But your number one defense, started letting, you were winning the physical game and then you started losing the mental game. No excuse for the defense to falter like that. That's embarrassing. Could have cost the defensive coordinator his job, and that's real, because there's no way after forcing 5 turnovers you lose 36-33. That's insane. And I'm like, Jalen Hurts or not, the defensive coordinator would definitely, you the number one defense, you number one, numero uno. That shouldn't have happened. But again, this goes back to using your clues and mental toughness. And when you get mentally immature, the same thing happened to the Bears. You shouldn't have lost that game, but you did. Shows the level of maturity of your players. They gotta talk about that. They gotta fix that, because they should have won that football game, but they didn't. You know what I mean? No. Now, I'm not saying I would like to see if the Commanders do in fact make the playoffs. I'm not necessarily saying I would like for them to play the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs. And that has nothing to do with whether or not I think they can beat them. It has everything to do with that was too intense yesterday. So a whole bunch of people going to get kicked out of that playoff game because it just got down. It was like, okay, does somebody need to just stop the game and have a conversation, because this is ridiculous and it's making me nervous, because Terry got to take his helmet off and get ready to scrap. Like, come on. Is that how everybody done forgot they were at the game? Okay. And that's just how bad it got. If you irritate somebody like a Terry and a Diami to that point, no. Which leads me to this. Marshon Lattimore PIs or not? Hey, understanding how intense these games are. And I have seen people literally talk bad about, Marshon Lattimore. But I said, this was a game, like I've been saying, this is going to be his first game. This is truly his first game. And so this is why you get a Marshon Lattimore. And I wanted everybody who was talking about him getting cooked and getting toasted, let me explain something to you. And Joe Witt Jr. said it best at the beginning of the year. You just cannot expect a DB to just beat everybody. Okay? All the time, or make sure they don't, like, nothing ever happens. That is an unrealistic expectation. Okay? Somebody, like, who else you going to get? AJ Brown is incredible. He is incredible. Right? Some of those PIs were not PIs, okay? They just were not, right? Not in my opinion. I'm not going to get fined for saying it. But he just getting back. They didn't target him at all in New Orleans, rightfully so. But someone just getting back and having to face AJ Brown, I tell you one thing. I'm putting him in there before I would have put anybody else on the roster in there. And that's real. You have to go with your best option that's available. Now, here's where there's cause for concern. He's injured. right? We don't know what that injury is. Dan Quinn told us today that we'll find out more later in the week. But A.J. Brown is one of the best receivers in the league. And that first PI, because I think they showed it in the replay on TV, but in real life, A.J. Brown was holding his jersey for about 15 yards. As soon as Marshon reached it to get his hand off the jersey, of course, they called pass interference. And so I said it was actually egregious what they were doing to Marshon Lattimore at that point, because it goes back to the point of even the Saints game with Dante Fowler, right? And the unnecessary roughness calls that he got when he was sacking Spencer Rattler those 2 times. It affects your gameplay. You know, it absolutely affects your gameplay. And you at that point, you're like, well, what do you do? Because if I touch him, if I do anything, now they're gonna throw the flag. And so there are wide receivers in the league that get different treatment. And I'll be glad when Terry gets there, you know. And A.J. Brown is one of those. But at the end of the day, who are you gonna put on A.J. Brown all day? Because the game plan was still the same. Because Jalen Hurts mostly only uses, you already know the three people he's gonna use for the most part. It's gonna be Saquon Barkley. The tight end is hurt. The tight end is out. So it's gonna be Saquon, AJ, Devontae. So what you gonna do? I thought it was some good bump. For Marshon to just be getting back in the fold after being out with an injury, I thought it was good. Very good. You're not gonna get them all. He just got back, and that is something that people get scored on all the time. Like, it is what it is. But you can't go score all day. And it could have been quite disturbing watching someone else have to be in that role. And they're gonna play it either way, right? Because you didn't hear or see a lot of it in the Thursday night football game. But at the same, somebody's gonna go off at some point. That's just the Eagles, because their assets are so good. Someone is going to just break out. You saw Saquon do it early. Then they found a way to contain him in the second half. But it doesn't mean I'm just going to stop giving the assets opportunities. There were absolutely opportunities for the Philadelphia Eagles to win that football game with their backup quarterback. The challenge was the response by Jayden Daniels in that offense. So it wasn't as bad as you thought. It really wasn't as bad as everybody was perceiving. And A.J. Brown is difficult to cover. He is very difficult to cover one-on-one in a matchup. It's hard. It really is. And he's excellent. I think, again, the surprise was that Commanders offense. The surprise for them wasn't the defense, right? The surprise was Jayden Daniels in that offense. That was the surprise. So getting into a bit of that, I did ask Coach Quinn about the game overall. And I want to share this with you all. I had a couple others. I asked him about Bobby, Terry, and Jeremy Reeves, because they were the game day captains. I get into the whole game day captain scenario because I think it's a real thing. And I think it's super dope how they choose the game day captains. So I'm going to play that clip. And I'm also going to play the clip of the question that I asked Dan Quinn yesterday about the game and what the game kind of signified, if you will. So here's the first clip right now.
I just asked Terry, I saw at the end of the game that Bobby Wagner had waited for Terry after he finished his on-field interviews, and then after that they just really took a moment to embrace. So for when you choose your game day captains, right? So Terry, Bobby, and Jeremy Reeves this week.
Yes.
Did you have in mind this game?
Yes.
This moment?
I was thinking I'd follow those three anywhere. I honestly would. And so that's why I thought if we're trying to, become more than a contender and, become somebody that can fight in bigger ones, you would need people like that on the leading example. And I love, what they stand for and who they are. Like, honestly, these are some of the best teammates you could have. And so we're fortunate that we have them. And, it was an easy decision to say, hey, man, you go lead the way.
And here is my question about kind of what this game signifies for this team, or what the win of this game signifies for the team.
Coach, you mentioned, over the season about this team just still having that fight. And you just now mentioned Jayden B, who became the heavy hitter today. So you said, as a team overall, is this one of those statement games? This is an example of what you're talking about to keep that fight going?
I don't think that, Candi, because there's a lot more under the hood for us. So a statement game is when you play really well. Then you know what you're capable of. So the good news is we can improve a lot. And so I wouldn't say it was that. I think it was a toughness game. And to show that you're down for the fight, to go 5 quarters. I talked about that early in the week. If this one goes 5 full quarters, that's the mindset I want us to have. And knowing that it would be a tough game all the way through, and give them credit. This is a tough group. But that's what I said, but not anything deeper than that today. I was hoping for that, but today was an example of resilience and connection as a team, knowing that mistakes did take place, and we kept ourselves in the game.
Mistakes absolutely took place. And it was one of those games where it's like, wow, they still won, right? It's that, it happened with the Hail Mary. It happened with the Saints game. It happened again yesterday where it's like, wow. So I'm glad that Coach Quinn was able to clarify that, right? A statement game is when you play really, really well, right? But this was a nod to their toughness, their resilience. And like he said, he wanted it to be a statement game. And I thought that was interesting. So I said, ooh, that's good to know. Because imagine a Washington Commanders team that didn't make the mistakes they made yesterday. And what that looks like. Because with all of the mistakes, and here's the other thing, we can all play the coulda, woulda, shoulda. If this wasn't happening, if that wasn't happening, you got to roll out with who you have. That is what it is. And so the surprise was Jayden Daniels. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what the quarterback, the amount of mistakes that happened. You got 5 turnovers. You are not supposed to win that football game. Period. I don't care who you're playing. Okay? You're just not. And so for this team to still win, and some of the game, the winning time moments, Olamide Zaccheaus, Jamison Crowder. Whoa. Okay. Who was expecting Brian Robinson Jr. to have 2 fumbles? Going back to Diami had a fumble. Jayden Daniels ended up with 2 picks. This was a bad game. Really, and as efficient as the offense has been, as very considerate and careful they've been with the football, it just didn't click, which then goes to the question I had today to Coach Quinn about Brian Robinson Jr. Check this out. Hey, Coach. Brian Robinson Jr. Yesterday had, not his best day, right? So we know what high standards he has for himself in his play. So what are conversations like with him to just kind of get past it, but also that corrective measures there for him.
Yeah, you just nailed it. How do you clear it? Because you do have to acknowledge it. You're mad, you're pissed, and so you do have to. It's not like you say don't worry about it. That usually makes you more mad. When I don't know how you feel, but that's hey, don't worry about it. Well, like hey, it's a big deal. Like I am going to worry about it. And so how do you acknowledge it? You take it in. Why did it happen? I didn't lock my elbow down. I was didn't clasp it on the way down. So as long as you can come to where the mistake occurred, that to me makes it easier, because then I know what the correction can be. And so on the sideline, he was strong mentally. Won't happen. So he was ready to, obviously he was still playing as the game was going. So it wasn't like we were taking him out and he wasn't going back in. He was clear-headed about what to do and how to take care of it. So he was mad, but I thought he did allow it to go and get on to the next one.
I think it's an important point to talk through all of the different mistakes that this team made and still won the football game. I'm going to acknowledge this because I answered that one earlier, and I'm going to acknowledge this question as well because I think it's an interesting one, because everyone wants to make it about Jalen Hurts, and I'm like, hey, the Commanders have already told you, and I'm going to leave it up here. The Commanders have already told you, you've already seen the plays aren't different. That was a use your clues moment. So Marcus Mariota has to go in there. And these plays are still designed for Jamison Crowder and Olamide Zaccheaus. And the defense still does what it does, knowing that the playbook doesn't change. I don't know why the result wouldn't still be the same. And this is why I'm disturbed by the Eagles defensive coordinator in their defense. I'm going to keep saying that. And it's nothing to say that, oh, Marcus Mariota and Jayden Daniels is better or the same. The playbook is the same. So it doesn't change. So I'm like, Mariota might have been awful in Philly, but the fact that no one wants to hold the defense accountable is disturbing to me, because I'm like, yeah, I think Cortland said it earlier. The defensive rank number one is the gift and curse. I'm like, and this is, if the system works, it works. And it's really not, they didn't stop giving Saquon the ball. They still scored 33 points with the backup quarterback. And I'm like, y'all doing Kenny Pickett wrong. You're looking at the wrong issue. And the Eagles really need the defensive coordinator. They wrong. CJ should not have gotten himself kicked out of that game. They clearly, absolutely needed him. They needed him. That's why those plays worked in the second half. You can't get put out of a game. This is important. You're playing for the division. You're playing for continue to win. Your maturity level showed. No, having to put all that emphasis on Jalen Hurts, it's football. And so it's just wild that nobody wants to really address the fact defense is a problem. Y'all supposed to be number one. That shouldn't have never happened. That's crazy. And so we're going to continue to move on. Like, I'm not sure, and perhaps this is an Eagles fan. I think he said his girlfriend is the Eagles fan. But I'm like, but hey, going back to my next point, I'm going to also say this. Again, yes, this part with the backup quarterback, because, hey, clearly the Commanders' defense was able to get it together. But like, y'all gotta, I said I was gonna definitely address that, because I'm like, everybody is talking about Jalen Hurts with a number one defense that allowed these people to score 36, and that's just me being objective. Like, there's a number of factors, and another things could be wrong, and more than one thing could be true, but to continue to give the defensive coordinator in the Philadelphia defense a pass, it was like with the Bears game. Yes, Jayden Daniels is absolutely a miracle worker, and that Hail Mary worked. But the Bears had a defensive player that was not where he was supposed to be. He wasn't where he was supposed to be. So how you going? Hey, if the Saints started Spencer Rattler last week, that could have ended up different. Like, it's just too many if-thens that things just... The Eagles defense is better than that. They're better than that. And they didn't come out with the W. I think it was because they they started getting outsmarted. And they shouldn't have never let that happen because they are way too good of a defense to let that happen. And that's me being purely objective, way too good to let something like that happen. For sure. 5 turnovers and 36 points, that math don't even math. But going back to the defense, I asked Coach Quinn about Joe Witt Jr. Check out his answer. And now 2 weeks in a row, the defense has had to adjust to 2 different quarterbacks in games. So what are your thoughts on just how, Coach Joe Witt Jr. and the defense overall has responded to that?
Yeah, I thought Joe is really hitting his stride on a number of spots because it does change things. And as you're going through it, it is part of the game of what things will stay the same, what things could be different, when there's a new running back or quarterback or tight end, whatever it looks like. And quarterback especially. They're so unique in how they play. So I was impressed by Pickett, honestly. I thought he threw the ball with good accuracy to the right spots. He's a nice athlete to move, so I could see why they would want him into that system. I thought he got outside and had good scramble ability. Wasn't surprised they didn't run the sneaks, to go through that. So those are things that come up that, hey, maybe that part of the game plan's not the same.
Very, 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 very interesting. And I see that people misunderstand things that I say, and that is okay. Because, listen, going back to this comment, because I'm the kind of person that loves addressing all kinds of people. Dan Quinn said Jayden Daniels became a heavy hitter, and he did. He became a heavy hitter. Anytime you are able to overcome all of that adversity, some of which was contributed to by him, and still find a way to beat this Eagles defense, hey, hats off. Because again, I'm quite disappointed in the Eagles defense. They shouldn't have let that happen at all. But with that being said, I'm going to also address this because I think this is a very important point. Does Jonathan Allen return this week or not? Does Jonathan Allen return this week or not? We talked about the Commanders' run defense. We talked about so much with this Commanders team, where they are defensively. Is Jonathan Allen missed or not? There is potential. We know that his 21-day window has opened. We know he is back a full participant in practice. We know that Sheldon Day has been solid, right? Johnny Newton as well. You've seen him, hearing his name called. We also know in recent weeks that Carl Davis has been elevated yet again from the practice squad, and Fedarian Mathis has been a healthy scratch. So for this defense in a very important Sunday night football game, because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost to the Cowboys. How they did that, I don't know. But the Atlanta Falcons have the division on the line. Now, the Commanders are basically, I think I saw a point earlier, James Roundtree said they're playing with house money. Totally agree. They absolutely are. And because you kind of good either way. But at the same token, it's not like anyone's trying to lose out. So, do you think Jonathan Allen comes back this week? I think it's very soon. I think he's absolutely coming back. So, I see some opinions and comments. Only if he is completely ready. The defense is okay right now, and his presence doesn't have to be rushed. I see this comment here as well. 9 out of 10 Allen plays has been their process. 1 week of practice, return the next week. Of course, they could save him, but I just don't see a space where he doesn't come back in the regular season. This will be an interesting week. Another important point to mention in terms of the roster overall, we continue to do what? Let's go to it, you all. Let's go to it now. Using your clues. We go to the use your clues, right? where you saw at one point cornerback Michael Davis getting a bit more burn than Benjamin St. Juste. Now we've seen Michael Davis also be a healthy scratch. Now that Marshon Lattimore is in the lineup. Now, with this injury, it'll be interesting to see what this is and what this isn't with Marshon's hamstring injury. But I think it's absolutely something to watch for Darian Mathis, Michael Davis. When does Jonathan Allen return? I think this is something that absolutely needs to be watched. It's an important game. I mean, they win and they're absolutely in. No doubt about that. I guess it's the same kind of storyline for the Atlanta Falcons. And I mean, there's so many storylines, right? Going through with this Sunday night football night and occasion, all the things. DQ playing his former team. A lot of you all mentioned Dante Fowler. That's his former team or one of his former teams. And so this will be interesting. This will be interesting. It'll be an interesting week. It's always interesting. And so we'll continue to see what happens and what transpires. What has, and this is not like on the screen question, but it's certainly what has surprised you the most about this team? I mean, aside from just the record, right? What has surprised you the most about the Washington Commanders? And I'll start while you all are typing in the chat, and then we'll go ahead and close this out, which is, I think it's just the fact, and it's some of the things that Coach Quinn has shared with publicly as well, which is simply they have continued to connect and evolve just as a team. And some of these things you don't see this fast in a group, in any group, right? It takes a while. And Lamar says, you'll say the defense being 10th overall currently. What is this? The high scoring offense has surprised me the most. And so it's still one of those things. Cortland, the success of JD5, and yes, Cortland is an expert at draft grades and draft grading. And he did say his evaluation of the roster at the combine, and he didn't think he would be this good this early. Absolutely. And they haven't given up. They have not given up. I'm surprised by just how much they seem to get out of players. Yep, that you didn't expect them to get so much out of, especially on the offensive end. And this one, they are this good so fast. It's been an unexpected good watch. And I think too, it's also been, even in the losses, it's been, this is some good football. We've watched some bad football over the years, you all. Love button fire emoji. Not saying you got to be happy about it, but it's just acknowledging the fact that this team has played some bad football. We don't watch some bad football games, okay? And it's just, it was just crazy. It's just not been bad. It's been good. It's been solid. It's been watchable. It's been something that you kind of want to say, maybe I should keep watching this game. I mean, I know a lot of Commanders fans have been like just getting out of, just not wanting to be a part of yesterday, probably because that first quarter, and Dan Quinn admitted it, that first quarter was bad. It was awful all around. Wasn't anything good about it. And so it just really is refreshing to say they really do play 60 minutes of football, and they really do try to find ways to just keep playing, to just keep adjusting, and just to keep going, and just we gonna play until the game is over. Love button, fire emoji if you all watched Jayden Daniels' interview on the boardroom, because he shared about the losing streak, the 3-game losing streak, and he mentioned that he had never experienced like a 3-game losing streak. Like he has never lost 3 games. And so it was interesting to hear that, just hear that for real. Because that definitely probably is like, welcome to the NFL. You got a losing streak here, buddy. But hey, they recovered, which is good, which is a good thing. Lamar, I'm surprised by how the run game in the backfield has seemingly regressed down the stretch. The running backs haven't been as good on first and second downs. I think that's the notion to the offensive line. The offensive line been getting smoked, and that's just reality. That's a real thing. When I saw against better defenses, it's the same thing happened in the first game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I will definitely respond to that, where I said, ooh, the offensive line is having a hard day. This looks bad. Ooh. And you have to go away with it altogether, or Jayden is the one that has to make a run for it. He's got to make something shake and figure something out, because the offensive line, then Andrew Wiley went out at one point, and then this is now the second time where I've seen the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line just beat the Commanders offensive line, right? We know that Brian Robinson Jr. had problems. He had issues. And then Chris Rodriguez came in, and that's what I posted. Okay, maybe this isn't B-Rob's day. Maybe try something else. Get Jeremy McNichols involved, get Chris Rodriguez involved, and then you saw Chris make some strides. He'll gain 9, then he'll lose 4. Then you say, but it was because the O-line just. So against this team, it's hard for the offensive line to have success. It really, really is. And so it's a tough watch because they have been so promising and they've been so good. But the reality is, the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line is better. And so that I think that's a key differentiator with that. You all know I'm going to always bring the objectivity here, but it was a tough watch because that's just not what B-Rob does. Everyone knows that's not what this offense does. Let's not just Brian, the offense overall, right? 5 turnovers, but they were forced by this. The defense put them in some tricky spots. They had the pressure on them. They absolutely had the pressure on the Commanders' offense. So they were doing what they could, but ultimately they were going to, hey, you got to keep thinking. You got to keep rolling. You got to keep play calling. You got to keep taking advantage of who's not out there and who is out there. So I'm pleased with the run game overall. Let me be very clear. 1 or 2 games of run game not working doesn't frustrate me, because we've seen, and this is because, again, this goes back to perspective. There was literally no run game all last season for conversations that are debatable, right, on a whole other day. So to see the running back room actually get utilized with a tremendous running backs coach like Anthony Lynn, right? I'm pleased. I'm actually pleased. So, you know, I know, and it's sad to see the Eagles fans, hold on, be strong. It's not the end of the world for you all, okay? It'll get better. This was a hard, tough loss for the Eagles fans community. I can see, but they have an excellent team. They were coming in the hottest team in the league. I think everybody was shocked that the Commanders came away with that win. The defense, the Commanders, to me, offensive line wise, Bobby Johnson and company are going to have to figure out how to, because they're just getting beat. You know, they're just losing to the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line. That's what's happening. And so they just losing to them. It happened in Thursday Night Football. It happened yesterday. And so it's going to be interesting to see, and this was definitely something, and I'm glad there's an Eagles fan. I saw this. See, y'all, when we do live TV, I don't mind. As you all are learning about me, I don't mind. We can always roll, because I'm like, hey, the Eagles gonna lose at some point. Better lose now. You know what I mean? Then in the playoffs, and then go home. But it's still shocking how they lost. Absolutely shocking. I was shocked. Really, I was. Because they played well enough to win, and the Commanders played bad enough to lose, for sure. Absolutely. So this is going to get interesting. Atlanta Falcons, Washington Commanders, Sunday Night Football. I might have to change my outfit now, you all, because I don't know what type of time everyone is going to be on. So I might have to change my outfit. I have to see for that, but it'll be good. Nonetheless, a lot on the line. It's a lot on the line. Wow. Commanders fans, how are you feeling? You've had some Eagles fans join the conversation, and I went ahead and acknowledged their comments, because, you know, we may as well. It's live TV. It's cool with me. So Commanders fans, you doing all right? Y'all gonna be okay? Everybody's gonna be all right. Don't melt down in the middle of the game anymore. I mean, y'all were just melting down, and then you came back alive. And so I'm glad you all came back alive. I'm glad. At one point I said, I'm just gonna watch. So yeah, no, we don't trash talk on TV. You know, welcome to Bowie TV. We are a television channel. And so this we don't do all that trash. We do trash talk banter on social media, but this is actually live television. But we're gonna keep this comment up there so that anybody would like to find this Eagles fan, they can go ahead and trash talk with them. But we do television commentary here, so that we just have to educate people on who we are at Bowie TV. Oh yeah, if I'm Cliff Kingsbury, I'm telling the running back room to bring 2 pairs of cleats. Oh yes. Yes, if they got to play the Philadelphia Eagles again, woo, that's going to be rough. That is going to be absolutely a rough go. Absolutely a rough go. But listen, you all enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your week. Merry Christmas, everybody. I only said Merry Christmas to Commanders fans yesterday, but now I'll say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. Everybody gets a Merry Christmas. Everybody gets a Merry Christmas. Seriously, you all be safe and you all enjoy yourselves. I always enjoy these conversations and doing them live. It's a lot of fun. It's great to share all of the things with you all. I definitely have some interviews, one with special teams coordinator, Coach Izzo, because I love what he's doing. Shout out to Jamison Crowder. You all had mentioned him earlier and what he did in the game. Luke McCaffrey as well. I definitely was going to share a clip about Luke McCaffrey, but Luke McCaffrey, we talked about Olamide Zaccheaus not doing returns anymore, but the impact he still made in the game. And so Luke McCaffrey is now doing returns. I think he did an amazing job. And so that connection with Luke McCaffrey, that's going to eventually click. And when it does, I hope it's at a home game, because I know that I absolutely know that is hearing the whole stadium say Luke over and over again. It's kind of like the Terry. It's gonna be great. So you all just enjoy your holiday season. We'll be back next week with more live television fun and talking about the Washington Commanders game against the Atlanta Falcons. So you all be safe, be well, and I'll be talking to you all again soon.